falling. You falling.
Oh my God.
Hello, welcome. Welcome everyone. Hey, I think we got it right that time. That's so good. Thank you so much for joining us for another evening of What's Going On Here, the show where we talk about the month's most recent episodes. This week we're going to be talking about Basically Good Podcast episodes 87, 88, 89, and 90. So spoilers, beware if you're watching us for the first time and you just think that, man, that guy wearing a suit is got a funny setup, and you want to watch the show and you haven't done it yet. Don't be here. I don't want you here right now. I want you later, but I don't want you here right now. You gotta stay away. Thank you. Bye. Let's get audience laughter. Okay, there.
Oh my god.
So before we dive in, there's a couple of announcements that we have for this evening. Gosh, we're very close. We're very close to our Patreon goal of $500 per month. We have just released a new tier, the Famous Hero tier. We have 2 people already occupying that tier, so there are only 2 spots left. Big benefits there are we're just gonna play a one-shot with you. That's about how that goes. A private one-shot for you would be available if you'd like to play with us. Go and check that out over patreon.com/basicallygoodpodcast. We are so excited about that. We have a big poll for those watching that are patrons currently. We have a big poll that we're going to be releasing probably later this evening, just about the new upcoming Patreon 2.0, and we'd love to get your feedback on that. It's very important that you take the time to fill that out if at all possible. We have added new emotes to our Twitch. You can check those out. There's some new Urkel short emotes available. But that is all. Thank you, Chronicler, for throwing those in the chat. That is all the announcements that I have currently. Let's dive in. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to start. By introducing some of our guests this evening. We have some recurring characters this evening. First off, joining us from the show, we have boy number. Shoot, Jackson. Is it boy number 3?
Boy number 4.
Boy number 4. Boy number 4, Jackson, give it up for boy number 4. Oh, just a laugh track. I clicked the wrong button. That's okay. And there's the claps. And boy number 1, Chance, thank you so much for joining us as well. And then we have some very special Patreon heroes joining us, heroines this evening. Let's give it up for Malia and Allie. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Yay.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go straight in because there's something that needs to be talked about before. Usually we've talked favorite ice cream. That's already been answered for us. We unfortunately were in a position where we were talking beforehand about it's like phone memory, right? I came in the middle. Phone memory and keeping messages. Is that correct? Malia, I need you to defend yourself. You were saying that you always keep your phone messages around. You never delete, correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was rebuttaling what you said about memories of grandma. You were saying when it comes down to it, memories nowadays with like pictures and stuff are not as valuable as when you had like one picture of grandma and that was like your special memory. And I said I disagree. You said that.
That is accurate.
You said that.
Yeah,
There's
that is accurate.
No. Okay, I will go back.
And I said
that's right.
no.
Continue.
You need more than one picture of grandma.
Zach just said no. But I don't know about that.
That was pretty accurate.
But I still will stand by, I think, my original like stance of back when our grandparents were children, they had like one picture, right? Like one picture of grandma. Maybe like when our parents were kids, they're like, here's my granddad. And it's like the one picture of him, like, you know, sitting, getting his portrait taken or something. When our kids and grandchildren are like, oh, here's my grandma, here's 15,000 photos and several hundred hours worth of video and TikToks and pictures of her with a filter with dog ears and tongue getting poked out. So, like, all I'm saying is that photo memory and text messages are cheaper now. Like, it's a cheaper currency, like memory currency, because we have so much. And that it's okay to delete those off of your phone, right? Is that wrong?
That's wrong.
Okay. Let's dive into it.
I mean, okay, so my thought is not every picture is the same. Like,
Exactly.
each picture is of a different memory. Even if they're, like, you were referencing, like, 4th of July, and you weren't talking about grandmas at this point. But, like, if I had a picture with my grandma one 4th of July and then the next one, and I had a bunch of 4th of Julys, we're getting older. It's a different year, all that kind of stuff.
But do we need
We're just lucky
a
that we get
photo
more.
every year? Do we need to keep
Hey, man,
Yes.
you don't got to take a photo every year.
All right, Zach, I want you to never take a photo of your son ever again.
Boom.
Oh,
Holy
Well,
snap.
Not the
Yeah.
same thing.
That's it. That's
You
it.
want-
That's
you
the
Not
want,
the
one.
like,
same.
meme
Exactly.
pictures,
How is
right?
it not this grandma versus?
Grandmas
Yeah.
looks the same. Grandmas look the same for the
Okay,
past
things are really
25
heating
years.
up here.
Oh my
No.
gosh.
No, I still stand by it.
Interesting.
It's not worth it. Okay, here's the other thing then. Instead of just regular old pictures, how hard is it for you to get rid of memes off your phone?
That's just like recycle bin stuff.
Yeah.
So it's
Unless they're
it's-
really
I-
destroyed.
Yeah, unless they're like primo memes. I'll keep those. Like, some just like have a long lifespan, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. It depends on the meme because I have a meme folder, but I do go through every once in a while and be like, oh, that one's not. It didn't hold to against time, and I get rid of it. You know.
Right. It was like a 1 weeker, like the think Mark think memes are kind of out now, right? See, the
Right,
reason I do this is because chat is just off the rails right now. Just off the rails. They're losing their minds, thinking that I'm some pig. I've seen the word capitalist so many times in Rabbit's website. I'm just saying that we don't have one picture of us anymore. We have lots of picture.
Lots
That's
of picture. Good.
Lots of
Lots of picture. Many picture. Much photo.
Many picture,
Okay,
good
I'm gonna
thing.
chalk this up to a W for me, and we're gonna move on.
We'll
I'm
remember
kidding.
this,
Where's the
Zach.
boo?
Hey, it's your show, man. It's your
No,
show.
where's the boo? There's a boo here. Okay, there it goes. I'm right! You know I'm right! Why are you booing me?
What kind of talk show is this? Jeez.
Okay, thanks so much for being here, guys. That was a good little warm up. It was like a little pre-pod. That's great. Now that we all feel comfortable and like we all agree on everything, let's dive into tonight's episodes. Okay, but to be totally transparent with you all, we have some very good episodes to discuss and some very good questions by the Patreon heroes joining us this evening. So we're going to go ahead and dive in and start with episode 87. In this episode, Building Something Better, we're going to be reviewing kind of the resolution of combat and on top of the Ele Deer National Bank. Aaron confronts the Golden Knight. Lucian vote. And we also lose a hero. But I think there's a really good question, and I'm gonna pass it on over to Malia to kick us off. Before we really dive into the thick of the episode itself, this episode wraps up kind of the actual Ele Deer opening to season 3. Malia, would you like to ask your question? Because it's super good.
Which one? I don't know which one you're talking
This
about.
is the one about the home brewing.
Oh,
Allie's like, don't you have
the
your
last
tablet
question
in
on my
front of
list.
you?
It's
Yes.
the last question on my list. I didn't know that.
Sorry,
This is...
I
Okay.
I had given
I
you
didn't know the
a
order.
handout at the start of class.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I was
It's
late.
it's on
you
the
know,
syllabus.
I walked in with my
Syllabus.
coffee.
It's on
and-
the syllabus.
Okay.
Yes, no, this is in reference to the homebrew
So-
setting.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say good job, Chance. That was some really good homebrewing D&D there.
Thank you.
Also, so the whole Ele Deer arc, I think you told us this last time when we were behind the curtain, like me and Allie before the show, like 2 months ago, that this whole Ele Deer arc was like homebrew and that none of it was coming from like the actual book or the books. So what was your thought process in developing the arc, including Urkel and Vero, and kind of wrapping up, I guess, Urkel's origin story as an adventurer? And had you been planning for that since the beginning and since talking about like character creation? And what was it like setting up each session based on what the characters were doing, like without having much structure? I don't know if that makes sense. And that was like 4
Yeah.
questions in one. So.
Yeah. So to answer, what was I planning it since the beginning? Yes. I love heists, and I believe Zach also shares that love for heist stories and narratives. And I was like, man, his character works at a bank, and I would love to one day rob that bank, and it makes sense. But no, yeah, Vero and Vote and Vittori, the three V's. Yeah, they were all kind of they're not a part of the written adventure that we're following. And it was kind of a stretch for me as a DM because I really love running adventure paths and like modules, and I was like, I think Zach said there's like basically in the like Pathfinder wiki there's like a paragraph, maybe two, of Ele Deer as a whole. So it was kind of a lot of just extra work, kind of like building out the Gilded Rose, building out like the Vittoris, the mob boss, Lucian Vote, with Aaron, and like tying it all together. That's stuff like I had 2 books and like 80 episodes to chew on while we were getting to that point. So yeah, it was exciting. It was a stretch for sure. And I didn't have a lot of resources helping me. But to answer the other question, going off of like you said, like having to deal with them being not sporadic, but not knowing what they were planning on doing, or like their attack plan, that was stressful. It was like a week to week, like me checking in, like, hey, what do you guys think you're gonna do, or like what's your plan, and sometimes they would have a plan, and sometimes they're like, yeah, we'll just like wing it, or like, we'll just like figure it out in the moment. So it was a lot of improv, which stressed me out, but I hope I answered all of those.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think
You're welcome.
that's a great answer. I know that, Chance, you're exactly right. Like, we talked about pretty much all this stuff before, but I didn't know. You never told me that I was going to get captured. That was news.
No.
To
Yeah.
me, which is
Yeah.
why
I just said there will be a heist in this episode, or in this story.
Right.
That's it.
Right. I think that's fantastic.
That's wild.
Let's move in to kind of this closing scene, right? So the battle has stopped. I think it was a beautiful way. You talked about kind of the snow falling, Chance, just like the beginning of winter in Isker. And we kind of have this moment where it just gets, I just heard it in my ears when we were recording, like just that deafening quiet, right? It's such a pretty noise. It's like maybe a little bit windy on top, but so everything's settled. And Aaron, I think, is the first one to hold on. We have a question from the audience. A wonderful, distinguished hero, Fry, says, before we go further, Chance, was there an actual way to peacefully release the chili guard dog ghost? That's right. That was something that we had talked about several What's Going On Here's ago, and it is now time to answer this. Chance, back to you.
Have I not answered it on What's Going
You
On
weren't
here?
here, I don't think.
Oh,
Not
okay.
fully.
Yeah,
No.
you weren't.
Okay.
You weren't a guest.
Okay. Yes, there was a way to bypass the ghost at the bottom of the Give. There, so in if I tried to hint you guys that way, like by saying like, hey, as you're nearing this hallway, it's getting colder, or like the ghost, each time it came for you, it was coming from one hallway. But if you would have gone down that hallway, you would have been met with just a giant kind of block of ice, and if you guys could have done enough fire damage to it and melted the ice, you would have been able to gone into the cell that its door was kind of blown and broken open. And by like finding the skeletal remains near that like broken magical snow globe, if you could have melted all of the ice with enough fire damage, the ghost would have finally have like been warm, because the ghost kept telling you how cold they were, and then it would have been at peace. So that was the thing. But obviously it was delusional from being trapped down there for so long, and they couldn't really tell you what it needed. So
So
gosh.
yes, there was, and we just fought it because
and you
that's,
just stabbed it a bunch.
that's what we do. Now, I will say, we had this discussion afterwards, if I remember correctly, about us not. We just thought, like, we had heard you say, because I think you mentioned it, several times, like, oh, it's colder down this hallway as you go, as Sarah like backs up, it was like colder down that
Right.
hallway. And then Frizzygig went north, and we were like, oh, I remember thinking, and I think Silas said too, is like, we were both like, oh, he just forgot. He forgot to say that it's cold in the northern corridor too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bad, you obviously did it on purpose. We just interpreted it poorly.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It's okay. It's
there was.
that thing. It's that meme where like the DM is like, "Oh, here's my puzzle," and it's just
is
some
for
crazy, like Rubik's cube thing, and the DM sees it as just a little puzzle piece thing that babies play with. So
It probably was that.
yeah.
We were under a lot of stress. No, I'm kidding. No, but great question. I'm glad that finally got answered. Okay, so yes, back to this rooftop. Aaron, before you lies Lucian Vote. Jackson, before Aaron lies Lucian Vote. And you get the chance to tell, and not just tell, you get the chance to ask any question you want. You can kind of do whatever you want at this point, because he's sitting at a cozy 1 HP, if that. It is a spitfire, like a rapid fire of questions. And he kind of comes back at you really hot and disrespectfully. I'm interested to know what is holding Aaron back from just kind of just offing him. Did that go through his head? Maybe it's not so much the assumption, but like why? Why show such restraint after something like all of this happening, if that makes sense?
It does. There are, I would say, a few reasons. One is like I got what I needed from him, so partly it's like there's a little bit of like I don't care about this person anymore. They're like, I don't know. I don't want to, like, they're lower than me now. Like I don't care for this person to live or die. Two, I think I was still feeling really guilty that I just one-shot those dudes in the woods.
Oh my God.
It was an accident, and man, we got Erky back, and so then it was like there's no reason to one-shot this dude.
Yeah.
And the last one was because we had just been to the Give, and that kind of gave the realization that there's plenty of worse punishments than death itself. So,
Right.
like, I didn't have to kill him for him to, like, be taken off, and Alec was going to do that anyway. So, and there's a part of me that didn't want to, like, stop Alec from getting to do what he was going to do, though Aaron wouldn't admit it.
Right. Right. No, that's also a really good point. You know, there's this whole encounter kind of with Alec that we get, and we don't have to spend too much time on it. But you know, I guess quick question for you, Chance. You know, are we seeing kind of the true colors of Alec? Because I think as much as he's disrespectful to Aaron, he's even more disrespectful to Alec. And I think there was a thread in all of, at least our minds, I don't know from a listener's perspective, that he was just gonna do it, right? Like it was like, this is where he just like drives the sword in, you know, and he doesn't. You know, what's that point for? What's going through his mind in terms of, you know, consequences potentially for either action?
Yeah, someone said it, and I don't know if it was in a Twitch chat or if it was on the Discord or what, but someone was joking that they were like, Alec is the most consistent character on the show. And I laughed at that, and I was like, well, it's, you know, it's kind of true. Like he is like dedicated to his idea of what a Hell Knight should look like. And that is just like Boy Scout, Superman, lawful neutral, right? Just like hardcore. Like we don't we don't kill like unless we have to, and like this person needs to like go under trial through like not checks and balances, but just like through the procedure, right?
Right.
Of of justice, right? And
Right.
not just like by my sword. But definitely I think it was a test for him because Vote and he are kind of like two different types of Hell Knights, and the Vote is straight up calling him a traitor to his own order, which has been now snuffed out since he was the last of the Order of the Nail. So although he is consistent, I think there is still that Alec Stahlgrim part of him that, you know, wants to. I mean, that's why he asked him about like, what do you know about my father? You know, what do you know about him? Like, what he's still like, he's still holding on a bit, right? Like 5% or something of his past. So yeah, I think it was a test for sure. But I think he made his decision and did it.
Right.
So.
Kind of the last thing that's addressed here before moving on to kind of this time to go home, right? This time to teleport back. Aaron kind of teleporting us all back home to Breach Hill. We have the loss of Sarah. She kind of crumples underneath the cold and the beating, and asks for Urkel to carry her to the edge of the building so that she can look at the city like one last time. And that was such a fun scene to kind of go over. But Allie, you had written up a question for tonight kind of surrounding the inverse, not so much about just Sarah or just, you know, the Vote and Vero and all the baddies. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it to you. Would you like to share your question?
Yeah, definitely. I was just re-listening today, and man, that whole scene was just as brutal, if not more, actually, a second time, because you just know what's gonna happen. But I was just kind of thinking about, I mean, obviously, all of the characters have something that they're kind of working towards since the beginning, and now that Vero is dead, and hopefully Urkel and all the party is going to be cleared of any charges. I was just wondering, like thinking, what now that he has all that weight off of his shoulders, I mean, and sadly also both of his parents have passed. I was just wondering, what are Urkel's goals now going forward?
In a weird way. I mean, that's a first off, really good question. I think in a weird way, it's like we always talked. Chance and I spent so much time, so much oxygen talking about darkest timeline Urkel or really good timeline Urkel, and like what sets him off one way or the other. And there is a route where like the loss of both of his parents is like, oh, this is too much. I gotta retire. Things are crazy, and I'm gonna go on a rampage, you know. But he doesn't do that. At least we don't see that, you know, right away. Instead, it's kind of it's more of like, I think the way that Sarah went probably was as much as it was similar, you know, to Tiberius. It was like almost on their terms, if that makes sense. Like they got to do it together, you know. She was choosing to go out, and he was there with her. And I think he had like that was a close of a chapter to him. And I think going forward and kind of into some of these later episodes, I'm not sure if I mentioned it. If anything, I said it very lightly in passing through these next few episodes. But Urkel's focusing much more on kind of the task at hand, like the family connection, like you had mentioned, is gone. And the only family he really has left, I think he actually talks about it in this next episode, is like his family is here, right? Like that's all he has left. And the town is all he has left. So I think he's going to get really serious in slipping back into that soldier mentality, and not so much, I don't think in a tacky way anymore. I think in just utilizing the abilities that he's picking up again, and those muscles are being flexed again. And I think he's trying to not be so emotionally wild, you know. I think, and I was talking to Chance about this as well, or I think everyone, and I just said like I think the bloody knuckles Urkel that like beat the tar out of Vero is like that's the last like brutal moment we may see. You know, like that, like, I'm just going to beat my problem into the ground is, I don't think he really wants to be that, you know. It wasn't as satisfying as maybe I think he hoped it would be. And it's like moving forward has to be more about the good of everyone else and the good of keeping his family safe, which is now the party. So I was a little long-winded, I'm sorry, but I hope that answered your question.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I have written down, I mean, for the notes for the next episode, I have the party is Urkel's only family now, with like sad face, sad face, sad face, but then also like happy face, happy face, happy face, because I mean they are his family, and it's really sweet that he still has family. So.
Right. And wouldn't have it if it wasn't for these last couple months, right? Because truth be told, without the party, he would have been pretty much like SOL, right? I'm pretty sure. Like if this kind of came back to bite him, regardless of what happened in the Mwangi, like if this came back, he has no ability to handle any of this, and him getting broken out of prison and all that stuff.
We also talked about, Zach, I don't think we ever talked about it to anyone else, but just you and I, but it was like, even if he would have ran away and never have gone to the Mwangi, Vera would have just like let him go.
Right.
And we were like how bad is that? Is like, it's like Vera was like, yeah, I want to like kill this like idiot who like killed me, but you know, I got brought back to life. I'm good. Like, but the fact that you're running away to the other side of the world led to you also destroying his like gold production. Like he's like, okay, now I'm actually going to go find this guy. yeah. So it's pretty funny, and it's more ironic that, you know, your actions led to it. But yeah.
Right. No, it's great. Great episode. I think again, just to echo what Malia asked at the beginning, or said in the beginning, great job with this arc. It was such a fun exploration of Ele Deer. The capital was so cool. It felt like, you know, old London or something, and I just think it was incredibly well done. So closing this out, we have Aaron transporting us back to the breach. Our heroes return home at the beginning of episode 88, Citadel, Sweet Citadel. We see that it's like weirdly occupied right at the beginning by some men from Ele Deer. And we meet up with some old friends like Devoku and face the Breach Hill Town Council to kind of explain what's going on here. Jackson, Does
up?
going home feel like a good thing to Aaron? Is this more like work that has to be handled, or does it feel like there's like more fires to be put out here, or does it feel good to be back? Or to start the spell. I think when he's casting the spell, is this like, oh boy, we got a lot to deal with, or is this like kind of a good thing?
Teleporting back?
Right.
I mean, I think he's ready. After they kind of got Urkel, and I mean that was his main thing of being there, even above dealing with any baddies. But because of the way things turned out, he had a lead, and so getting back is like just the next step. And I think he thinks it's good overall. When they show up, there's kind of problems, and so
Right.
stuff's got to be done there. But I think Aaron's way over Ele Deer. He don't want to go back.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Not even for the outlets.
It's strange. Like, it's strange. I felt like it, like, going back definitely felt like good, but it's like there's this weight of kind of the trail of blood. You had mentioned it a little bit earlier, like there's some bodies that were found. There was somebody we left in the street, like Kaleri left a body in the street, and now we have to kind of own up to some of this. But at the same time, Chance, we get to come back to Breach Hill, and we're presented with a kind of a lot of friends. I think this episode does a good job of showing some of the allies that we have and that we've accrued from all over the world. Is this difficult kind of as a setter of the environment to get back into the heads of these NPCs and to really know where like their allegiance lies and why? And one of the instances that I'm thinking about in this question is like, we come back to Devoku and we're like, hey man, we're so sorry that you've been sitting here for a week by yourself. Do some of these NPCs feel still like they're doing the right thing, that they're protecting something greater than just kind of themselves, if that makes sense? Is that a difficult headspace to get into?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of characters in Breach Hill, and a lot of them that I haven't played in a while. So, but no, I think specifically Devoku. Devoku is like, he's like in it for the long game, right? Like he wants to find a Kire similar to Claire. He also feels this way. He's also so old, right? Like he's very, very old and is an outcast of the Akujai. And I think crossing paths with Kalere and learning about Akire and that he could still be out there has sparked something in him. And I think going through Hunter Gate and like finding Alcetta's ring, I think he finds purpose, right? Whereas before he was kind of this hermit in the woods until he crossed paths with Akire. So no, I don't think he's, questioning like, oh, I should have stayed in the Mwangi. Like I think he sees the big fight down the road. Like he sees like how important this is. Whereas, some of the others, the Bumble Brashers, some of the townspeople, some of the people that you're like less right. to, definitely are like kind of questioning, because there wasn't really doubt, because Breach Hill's a very welcoming small town. Heroes, there's always adventurers coming in and out all the time. But I think this whole thing and this kind of smear campaign against you guys has forced some of these NPCs to like, buckle down and like have an opinion on you guys, and you're staying here. You're staying here and you're making bigger splashes in the pond every few months. So it's becoming more of a like, do we like these guys? Like, do we like that weird things are being said about them? So
Right. No, that's a really good point too. I mean, I guess I didn't think too much about, the lasting effects. We talked about a little bit, the smear campaign and kind of the lasting effects of what happened when we left and kind of the time it's going to take to clear up our names. But it is good to know that we've done enough good, right? I feel like is kind of the answer there, that we've done enough to where people do trust us, and it's not just like, we got to go again, bye-bye. Moving into kind of this, the rest of the episode, this episode really is about checking in with the first couple of people that we bump into. And it kind of comes to a halt after the first day when Aaron pipes up and says, "Hey, I really need to talk to all you guys this evening. Let's have some dinner together." And I think it was an amazing way to end the episode, just with the hanging of that looming question of like, there's something I need to share. I think you kept it in there with Jackson just saying, and I think that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. I liked that.
I think it's great. But we do. So let's move in. This is the juicy one for the month, I would say. We have an entire episode dedicated to Aaron and his backstory. Aaron explains kind of his plight to the party, and he talks about where he comes from, who his family is, and what he's done. And before we get into the questions, Jackson, what a story! Like, I can't say enough how impressed I was listening. For the listeners, I mean, we don't hear the one-on-one episodes until they drop. So we're just like you, like in the car on Monday morning, like plugging in the headphones and trying to like catch up. But I think the very first line of the show, "Mommy Aaron's home," is like, like I think everybody listening was like, what? How important is it, Jackson, for Aaron to share this with his friends? What fears have prevented him from telling them so far?
I think it's really important. They've all shared a lot of their life with him, and he's held out for a long time. And it just wasn't something he could keep hiding. So in a way, he's done a lot for them, I would say, like presently and like the present day of their time together, but he's really held back a lot of his past from them. And so I think it was like past due. But I think he was just really afraid of, being rejected because he wasn't brave enough to do anything about it up until this point. And it's been something like 10 years.
Right.
And I think he just feels a lot of guilt about it. And it's not something that he is even eager to think about. So let alone tell people and, admit his powerlessness and shame and all that. So, but they had more than proven themselves to him. So he was, if not ready, it was time.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Right. No, I think but there's some amazing questions that Malia and Allie have come up with, and I want to give them time to really ask most of the questions surrounding this episode. But I just want to comment on how well I think you showed Aaron's age as an elf. The story, the dump that we got from Urkel, and his story, that's very kind of like muddled and filled with kind of this like rage and mass emotion. Aaron has done such an incredible job of not necessarily not showing it, but just just his wisdom goes it's like a 100-year-old person, right? Like, I just think you've captured that so well, and especially in all of these opens, in these, it felt like I was reading a Lord of the Rings book when he would speak, or like maybe like a passage from the Bible. I don't know if that's sacrilegious, but something that was just very like poetic, like through the morning times and the times that were very good. You just did such an incredible job of capturing who Aaron is and was before he hit the road. And that is all I'll say. I will allow Malia. You wrote an incredible question here regarding something that happened in the middle of the episode, and I want to give you time to ask that.
Okay, so specifically 29 minutes in to the episode, Aaron is running away, and that's the clip was of that audio was just him running away, I think. And he asks himself if his father would be disappointed in him, which made me really sad. But we don't know anything about Aaron's family, I guess, beyond now what we know. But is that something that we're going to see more of in the future, or is that just a little tidbit that we know now that, he cares about what his father thinks about him? Or so I have that question, and then I have another one, but I'll let you go first.
His parents are very important to him. Both of them are. I have definitely more written about them than possibly will come out in the podcast. I don't know if we have any plans to do maybe something explicit surrounding his parents, like explicit backstory reveal. There's just a good amount of relationship dynamic that I like have there. They were very good parents and kind and loving, and they, in my backstory, I have that they told him to be weary of humans, and weary of falling in love with them. And I also think he views him as a very good and gentle and kind person. And in this middle of the time of guilt, I think anything he was going to think about would be like something to the effect of, this person would be ashamed of me. So
My God.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thanks.
what?
No, I have another question. That was just really sad.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
sorry.
a rough time for him.
It's funny. It's
Maybe
funny
that can
because
be like a.
oh, sorry.
ahead.
I was saying it's funny because Jackson, you this is in your headspace all the time, but when this is the first time you're saying it to people who've never heard it, right? So
Yeah, I
think
guess so.
It's shocking and sad to them, So
Yeah, this is something that I've been playing around with for well
For
over
like-
a year now. So.
For like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Jackson's just like, oh, this is just my childhood trauma. That's all.
yeah.
Like,
And we're
we're
just
in
like,
therapy right now, actually. Group therapy.
That is so funny.
maybe that can be like a $50 patron reward. It's just learning all of the backstory.
Some one-on-one time.
Yeah.
I did have another secondary question.
Mhm.
So like in season 1, obviously Aaron hates Hell Knights, and we can kind of piece that together with some of the older audio and cold opens that we learn after we found out that they took the necklace from him. But were there any other points in the podcast where Aaron's decisions were blatantly motivated by Alora or Emmeth that we might not have realized as listeners? Like, do you remember recording where you were like, oh yeah, like this is how Aaron would react because of what we now know as listeners, but we wouldn't have picked up on?
There's not a lot of, I would say, big things that were like big decisions that were fueled by his past, but I would say there's a lot of like little things, and some like things like, you know, running into the soul gem early on, and he named his staff after Alora, but he kind of changed it. His staff's name is Elra, and Frizzigig asked about it, and then he kind of dodged the question. So a lot of it is not super fueled by his backstory, except maybe mood, because a lot of his backstory he's trying to avoid it. So not too much, but a lot of like small things, I would say.
There was also a time in the Mwangi, I can't remember who brought it up, but they were it was talking about like, have you lost some, or someone, like, do you know what it feels like to lose someone?
Yeah.
And then I remember Aaron said like,
Yeah.
yeah, I do, or like, yeah, and that was it. You know, maybe it was Frizzigig talking about Treazel or something, but I remember definitely a fireside chat about that.
Yeah.
And Vaz really early
I was
on
gonna
asked,
say Vaz. Yes.
mm,
That was. Go ahead. What was? Remind us. Refresh us.
she asked, I think, if there was someone that I loved or something like that,
Yeah,
or someone I was doing all this for. But yeah, everything like that, you just get a little bit, and then he would just emotionally shut off, I think.
That was the first time we saw Aaron, like, he's like, haha, I eat bird seed, and I have this little map, and I can help you guys. And then she asked that, and he's just like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. And he takes a drink. And it's just like, what? Like, it was so good. I just remember being like, this character has so much depth that we have no idea what it is yet. It's so good. So I that was the one that stuck out of my head as being like the scene, you know, like he and I think we've talked about it several times on this show about how like you like when Aaron doesn't want to talk about something anymore, he won't, you know. It's just like there's this kill switch that's just like, nope, we're done. I'm not sharing, like you said, with your staff, and you just dodge the question. Like, nope, not gonna talk about that. So very, very good. Allie, you had a question for Jackson as well, kind of surrounding his whole backstory. If you'd like to go into that.
Yeah. First, I did just want to say really quickly, after this really awesome episode, it was just so good. When I was then going back and like re-listening to 87 and just kind of knowing really why Aaron is looking for that soul gem and how he's all up in Vote's face, it just gives it so much more like urgency and intensity. Like when I was listening to it today, I was like, oh my gosh, like it just has a whole new meaning, like why he's just so intense, why he so intensely hates all of these people and is so desperate to find the soul gem. So that was just something I wanted to mention, because it just, I going back and re-listening with obviously the new knowledge, it just gives so much more depth to everything, and it's just really awesome. But pertaining to my actual questions that I had, I was kind of thinking about this because obviously, after Alera and Emeth passed, obviously Alera left Aaron with the task of trying to bring Emeth back, saying that she believed that he could do it. And I was just curious, like, when in the timeline had Aaron began studying to be a wizard? Like, was that before he met Alera? Or was he inspired by her to start studying? Because obviously we see him use he uses magic to, knock down the door when he couldn't get in, when he found them dead. But I was just wondering, like, where in his training was he at that point? And then I do have another question, but it doesn't necessarily pertain to this specific part, so I'll wait on that.
So according to the lore, Aaron first started training to be a wizard back in Miriani Forest, where he grew up, and I have it that there was like their arc wizard, their main magic person, had passed, and so there was only so much he could learn while he was there. And with only a few tomes, he went to Corvosa to study at the academy. So,
Right. Yeah.
and that's where he met her. So he was in the progress to becoming a wizard before they met. Yeah, and they met over magic.
Oh, cool. I love timelines, so I was curious about when in the timeline all of that actually began. Because obviously I always forget that, yeah, even though we talked about it earlier, Aaron's an elf, he's older as well. So I like getting information on the timeline, so that's interesting. And then I was also thinking, I mean, obviously in this episode we hear Aaron, more of Aaron's backstory, but we also hear a little bit about where living in Corvosa when that's where you were, right? When that plague happened. Okay. It was so chaotic. It was actually a little stressful to listen to, honestly, just everyone desperate to get medicine, people dying, like the government being, the queen falling and a new king taking place. I was just really curious, does Aaron plan on returning? Does he want to go back there? I mean, we know how he feels about the Hell Knights, but I also just want to know, obviously obviously he's very scarred from everything that happened, but yeah, does he want to go back there? How does he feel about how everything was handled, with that plague outbreak and everything? Or does he just feel like he's completely cut ties with that part of his life?
So a lot of what happens in Corvosa is directly related to what happened in the campaign that Chance ran with me, Silas, and Ronnie, Curse of the Crimson Throne, and that's kind of the setting of his backstory in terms of Corvosa. I don't think he's ever going to go back to Corvosa. That place is just a graveyard of bad memories. He could want to go back someday, but it would be because he's feeling sad and moody.
We love it.
Yes, we love that stuff.
Now that he can teleport,
yeah,
he can just teleport.
Right, take a weekend.
And it is on the way home, so he could stop there if whenever he's going to go back. But yeah, the Hell Knights are no longer there. There's no longer the disease, but all of that kind of wrapped up before he left. And in all honesty, the academy there is kind of whack.
Bro,
a lot of corruption over there.
I just got so sad in this moment of realizing that there will be a day when Frizzigig and Urkel are gone, and Aaron is still a young man, and will probably just go back home. It's so fucking sad.
Well, yeah,
that's
it's
so
the
rude, Chance.
who remains,
sorry.
like
rude.
Aaron and Kalere, right? That.
Yeah,
that's the party someday. Urkel's old already. Frizz is gonna die in a minute and a half. So. Wow.
Yeah.
Stop.
Not Frizz! No!
Next month, maybe.
You said that in the podcast, too.
Yeah, you guys
I'm so
did,
sad. He just had a birthday. Let him live.
I think that's
Aaron
what we
is,
said on his birthday. We're you only got a couple more of those or something.
Oh my
so
God.
rude.
So sad.
Oh, no.
So rude.
Aaron is how old is Claire? Did Ronnie say she was 110? Something like that.
she is barely over 100, I believe.
Right.
Aaron is 145.
Dang.
At the beginning of the adventure. I don't know if there's a full year has passed. And Frizzigig's probably gonna live to be 6, so yeah. He's gonna have a long time trying to get over that.
Silas is pissed off in the chat.
Silas is pissed in the chat.
That's why Frizz has had such good character development. He doesn't have much time left to develop it.
We really gotta. We're on a time crunch.
He
here.
really has to.
He's wiser than all of you guys. He has more goblin life experience than any 100-year-old elf.
That is so funny.
You heard it here, folks.
Also, really quickly, just thinking about that, this was actually something else that I was kind of thinking about it, that I was kind of thinking about, but both Malia and Fry, I think, just kind of gave it the words that I wasn't able to in the chat, because I was partially thinking, would he have to go back to retrieve Emeth's body to bring her back? And both Malia and Fry kind of asked something like that in the chat, and I was like, yes, that is what I was trying to think about, but my brain wasn't fully forming the question. So that was something, yeah, that I was also
What
curious
happens
about.
when
Like,
he gets her back? Will he stay
yeah,
with the party? Will he not? Is he gonna get her back? I guess we don't know.
So it's complicated because I don't think Aaron fully understands the magic to how to reincarnate somebody from a soul gem. I don't know if the body is necessary, or there are some spells in 1E that I'm familiar with that you can make a body that, for example, there's a spell called clone where you make a makeshift body, and then when you die, your soul automatically goes to the clone. But Aaron doesn't fully understand the magic and the things necessary, and the body is diseased and
right, yeah.
kind
Wouldn't
of
want that
damaged. But and even more than all of that, Aaron still doesn't know if he can handle bringing her back. So
Yeah, that's fair.
and
Right, because he was like, what if I bring her back and she dies again? I was like, oh my gosh, what
Right.
if? I was like,
Well, now he's maybe got Vaz with him. The in-house necromancer might be able to help
Right.
a little
Resident
bit. I don't know.
necromancer.
I just like to think if Emeth came back, then she would be the daughter of the whole party. So she would have math.
Like
3
Full House,
dads,
just have a bunch
1
of
mom.
uncles.
Okay. Oh yeah, and then all the aunts
Uncle.
and uncles.
Whoa.
How beautiful.
Okay, never mind.
I'm just kidding. The thing, you can't see me on screen, but I was being funny. I was being silly. I will say, on top of that, though, like, it's kind of what we were just talking about. Like, there's going to be a day where Urkel and Frizz don't exist when Aaron exists. And it's like trying to see the value, and Aaron, I guess, I don't want to put, like, it's not necessarily me putting words in Aaron's mouth, I don't think, but it's like, that's kind of what we have to encourage him as a party, one way or another. It's like, is it, there's something good that comes out of humanity, shortness of life, even if it's not hundreds and hundreds of years, this is still valuable. This, Jackson, you said, I don't know if a full year has passed. I think we've only been together for like 3 months. And it's been so important. Like, it's been impactful to all of us.
Yeah.
And so being able to, like, recognize the fear, and what do you do with it once you're able to, like, see clearly, it's going to be interesting to know what happens. And I think Kalari said it best when she said, hey, like, no matter what, like, we're here, no matter what, like, we're going to support you, whatever you want to do. And if it means marching to the other side of the world, we're going to do it, So I love that. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm going to get off this stage here. But moving on to... actually, not moving on. Still staying on this episode. We talked a little bit about the lore, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jackson. Chance, I wanted to give you an opportunity if there was stuff you wanted to share about this world. Most of Aaron's backstory is rooted in this previous campaign.
Yeah.
And, tailoring that to fit in our story, how much did you guys spend kind of blending this story together? What were some of those, like, things that you wanted to include when kind of building this all out?
Yeah, I have always, I'm a big MCU guy. Like,
Right.
after this, I'm probably gonna go watch Age of Ultron with my family.
Amazing.
But no, I love, and I'm always in
long
love with
movie.
the idea of taking different narratives and stringing them along in the same universe. I've always loved that. And yeah, I just like, and I think Jackson and I we were both kind of careful. We were like, well, we don't want to like do too many references, otherwise everyone's gonna get annoyed. Because there's nothing worse, and I see this all the time on like D&D kind of social media. It's like when people do like memes or references to their home characters, and it's like, I don't know who that is. Sorry, like I have no emotional buy-in. So I try to do it sparingly, but yeah, the when Aaron's on his way home, obviously to find his family, that he passes by the golden gates of the bank of Corvosa, and encounters a cleric trying to like get three adventurers in, and that was a direct scene from our campaign. Um, During the outbreak, the bank, I believe they had a role to play in the plague. The plague was spread through a cursed coffer, and the coins, the coins themselves, specifically silver and copper pieces, were being used to spread the disease to the poorer people of the city. So anyways, that was a direct reference to that, and then obviously the new king Alvaron being crowned, and all of our past characters. So yeah, I don't know, it was I can't speak for Jackson, but I felt like it was fun to be in that setting again, even though it was like from a different perspective and a different kind of timeline.
Yeah, we definitely saw, like, we were able to see kind of this kind of, you had mentioned, something I think that all just kind of stung, like this, like it's a poor people's sickness, and I think we got to see that firsthand with Aaron, just like being stuck in a crowd of people trying to like have any sort of hope or ability to get what he needed, and ultimately just being helpless in the situation. So I think that imagery, obviously, we weren't there for the campaign that you guys played, but it's very cool to see that view, as a listener, on what that whole incident, Blood Veil, kind of looked like.
Something actually important that I just realized, Jackson, but Aaron lived the kind of calamity of the climax of that adventure, which is pretty crazy. For those that obviously didn't play in the campaign, in the final book, the queen, who is evil, big Curse of the Crimson Throne spoilers. She has this crown that is from an ancient dragon kind of lord, and is controlling her, kind of, or influencing her. And she eventually makes a deal with a devil, with like one of the devil lords of hell, and she is going to sacrifice a lot of people in the city to obtain kind of immortality. And she opens a gate to one of the planes of hell, or one of the circles of hell, and devils just start like falling from the sky and like landing and attacking people. So it's actually kind of scary that Aaron at one point is probably hiding in a corner of the city trying not to get killed by a devil, which is just crazy.
Sheesh.
I had not thought about that, but yes,
Yeah,
that lines up.
Yeah.
That is rough. He lived. Crazy. So again, it's such a cool thing to like wrap all of this kind of up into Aaron's like complete story. And we talked about it a little bit, just being like, how old he is, how much he's actually witnessed and survived through is very cool. Great questions, guys. I super appreciate Malia and Allie jumping in with just some really big thinkers. Moving on to this last episode, episode 90, current episode, Gimgash. So we take care of a lot of stuff kind of in-house at Breach Hill, and we know that we got to get out of Breach Hill and go check on the actual Bumble Brashers. So we head out to Gimgash, and we see some very old friends, like Frizz's family, Jeremy, Warble, and there's a big discussion that ensues kind of about the safety of the Bumble Brashers. Frizzy kind of kind of heads up mostly, and Warble states, hey, there's going to be this meeting we're going to have to talk more about what we're going to do next. In the latter half of the episode, Warble kind of just nonchalantly says one more thing. Vaz Lorraine is still here. And that's I don't think any of us were expecting to see her so close by. And Aaron actually volunteers to go speak with her. Jackson, is there like a respect between Aaron and Vaz post what happened in the Give? And do you have trust for her at this point? Does having her on the team sound like a good idea? There's this out of character kind of discussion where I'm like, okay, wait, wouldn't it be so cool if, we had her as like a general or something? What is kind of the thought that Aaron has going into this conversation and throughout the conversation?
Yeah, see, like Vaz was never, if I remember correct, she wasn't ever like malicious towards Aaron, and she didn't ever like treat him with disrespect despite being a little
kidnappy.
Kidnappy.
Yeah, or a little kidnappy, small kidnap.
Little
yeah,
twisted.
just a
Telling you to
kidnap.
kill someone.
Yeah,
Afternoon
but
kidnap.
it wasn't like she was taking him to throw him in the Eve and torture him for her.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And so after understanding the genjutsu that Urkel was put through, I think that Aaron felt bad. And also there's definitely a wizard to wizard respect there, right? Like
Right.
seeing each other as capable and powerful. And he knew that he was the closest to her of the party. And yeah, I don't think he holds a lot of ill will towards her, even when things ended before the Give. So yeah, I and also just knowing that the place that she went to was back to Breach Hill, even though it was obviously dangerous for her, and what she chose to do was took care of the people in our household without being asked, was enough of a sign.
Right. No, it's a very good conversation, and I think it was handled super well, and it's really fun, as a player to have, and it goes kind of back to what I was saying earlier, to Chance, like having allies, right, and somebody that we didn't really think was going to be a continuation of the story, a continued part of this story, shows up, and we have a chance to kind of talk to her about it. And that's amazing. Last question for the evening. Allie has written up an awesome question to ask Chance, kind of all encompassing these last 4 episodes. Allie, if you want to take it away, take us home.
Sure, thank you. So I was just kind of thinking between Aaron's story and Gimgash, like these 2 episodes, yeah, we get a lot of NPCs, we reunite with some NPCs like Frizzigig's dad and Jeremiah. Then of course we're introduced to some new NPCs like Alira and Emeth. And obviously these specific NPCs are like really personal, to the party because they're family members and lifelong friends. So Chance, I was just wondering, like, do you prepare for those NPCs, like to play those NPCs in a different way than you would when you play like Vote or Vero or Insert, one of any number of NPCs that maybe we just met for a minute or so?
Yeah, for sure. They're I feel like the Breach Hill gang of NPCs are in my headspace more than any of the villains for the most part. Definitely Vero and Vote. They have some. I've always been a fan of good fleshed out villains, so they're a little bit different. But yeah, I think about Jeremiah a lot. I think a lot about um, shoot, why can I? There's so many.
I re-
The mayor. Why can't I think of her name?
Greta.
Thomas Cattlesby.
Greta
Oh, sorry.
Greta Gardenia.
Greta.
Yes, of
Father
What
course.
a
Xanthus.
Yes.
woman.
Father
Thomas
Xanthus.
Cattlesby.
Sanders.
Oh my
The
god.
real mayor.
Yeah, I don't know, but no, Greta. I think about her a lot, and just like the weight of responsibility of the town, right? And yeah, I think Breach Hill's a very special place. Sandpoint is a very famous town in the world of Pathfinder players because it's the first town and their first AP. And there's a lot of different APs that go through there. But Breach Hill has become like a second Sandpoint to me. And yeah, I think a lot about how those loved ones would react, especially like Frizzigig's parents, right? Like they have seen him maybe 3 times since this whole adventure, and every time they see him, he's so different every time, right? Um, so I want to do them justice. And yeah, I think Tiberius was a big one, obviously. So that's kind of sad that he's gone. But yeah, NPCs are very important to me, especially the ones at Breach Hill.
Right, I mean, the Breach Hill ones, they're no Cornelius and Harold, but
Holy
I was
cow.
wondering when you were gonna mention them.
Cornelius
I was
and
thinking
Harold.
about it.
that
They were
just came to
secret.
me as you were talking. I was like, oh my gosh, wait, who are my 2 favorites from the cart?
Yeah.
From the
And I
The Hero Duels
and
connoisseurs.
and I was thinking we never got to hear of the 2 like pelt sellers that you guys
Oh,
got
We
in the
just
city with.
left. Oh my
They were like,
Gosh, really
yeah,
did just leave them in the chaos.
yeah.
They literally
Like we'll see you guys in a
in the
bit.
middle of an insurrection. They're just there.
Yeah.
They're visiting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Vacation
visitors.
when the hurricane comes.
just trying to make ends meet.
Yeah. I will say, this is off topic, but I will say I can't wait for the next Tattered Trap Rats episode.
Holy, that's so true. They might as well be NPCs.
Tattered trapper.
Yeah, they're not NPCs, but man, they're a hoot.
I think that's I mean, such a good question. I know personally that I feel like, and you touched on it just a little bit, but like when you're dealing with somebody else's NPC that they write, you're like
Mhm.
a parent or something, you just feel this much greater responsibility to do justice
For sure.
to it, right?
Yeah.
We haven't had to encounter a lot of those yet with the Bangarang gang, but I am nervous to do it. We've done like one. Exploring past relationships is so good or so difficult, and I think, Tiberius for a prime example just was so well done. When there was a chance that he wouldn't be, and those are always just hit out of the park. So really fun. That even characters that are like insignificant, like Thomas Cattlesby, are still such memorable. Mr. Wilson, freaking Gundrick Wilson, is just a household name.
Oh my god.
Are just so well done. And it's good to be back amongst them, I'll say. Any closing remarks from anyone before we wrap up this evening? Any last minute cues?
Not a
Chance,
cue,
we
but
had a little. Oh.
no,
I
you
was
go.
gonna bring up.
Mine is so stupid. Like, please, you go.
Well, mine is 2. I was gonna bring up our little discussion in the chat. We were talking about when you said the line, when Voss, she was just like, well, I'll just grab my thing, like the spell book. Is that from Megamind?
Oh my god. Wait, when does that happen in Megamind?
When he's like, they're fighting, and then Minion is like, well, fine, I'll just pack my thing and go.
Yeah. Maybe
yeah.
in
So
in
good.
my subliminal, my unconscious
Because I know you
mind,
love that
maybe
movie.
I do love
Jess is
Megamind.
a big
I have
Megamind
to
guy.
say
Such a
it
good
was
movie.
not. I was not thinking that, but that is very funny. Megamind is
Trying to-
objectively
That was all.
a 10
That
out
was
of
my
10.
question.
So
That's the
Oh,
cue.
it's
Yes.
such a good movie. I love that movie.
Top 5 movies. Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, sure, agreed. I hope Wes doesn't come for it in the chat because he would be wrong because it's such a good movie.
Right
Jeez.
next to Paddington.
Oh,
hey, we might be able to watch that one day. So.
movie night.
No way.
Paddington.
Wait, Megamind or Paddington or both?
Double
Oh,
feature.
double
Stop
feature.
it. We've
Double
got multiple months.
That's so true.
Double feature
Double
Paddington.
Yeah.
Well,
double feature.
I think
Sorry,
that
I'm just
about
laughing.
does it for this evening. I do want to say we're looking at chat. When we do this, it's just we have to keep the show moving, and so there are times where we don't get to some of the questions and comments. But I've got to highlight Evil Snotbag. What did you say earlier? That I just had to get off screen because I was laughing so hard about Frizzy Gig's socks that are gonna outlive him. Holy
Oh my god!
cow.
My goodness.
So perpetually wet socks that will outlive all of us. So funny. But as always, we are constantly blown away by the fact that there are people that show up here every month to listen to kind of the responses from the gang. It's the best. I want to give a huge shout out to Malia and Allie for joining us. Thank you guys so much again for coming. Once again, it's so awesome to have you guys listening every week, staying up to date, and getting emotional in 4K on live TV in front of us. So I appreciate you guys being vulnerable. But it's been a joy to have everybody here tonight. Thank you, Chance and Jackson, again for answering all the cues. We're gonna wrap it up here. Thank you all so much for coming to this month's episode. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah.
Zach, I was gonna ask about a volleyball filler episode, but I didn't.
Oh,
That's what I really